Hey, welcome back to Dad's Space, the podcast for dads by dads. My name is Dave. Nice to be here. You're like, Dave, where have you been? Where's my new Dad Space episode, Dave? I need an answer. Well, okay, I'm here to give you an answer, and I'm here to say hi. I hope we're still friends. The month of August, well, late July or August, all of August, we've been doing something with our families to benefit our kids for the future, and I wanted to share with you what we're doing because to us it seems normal, but when I tell people, they're like, "You're doing, wait, what? What are you doing? How did you do that?" And I'm thinking, well, maybe I can share that with you here on Dad Space so that you can maybe learn from this a little bit. It's here on Dad Space, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for pressing play. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. We're back to regular episodes, getting it all back into the groove of things on Dad Space again. So thankful that you're here. So what we're doing is, when my kids were little, my wife and I got together and we talked about the financial future of our kids. We're like, how can we create something for our kids long after we're gone so that they are set up for success in the future? A little backstory for you. I grew up in my family. My dad left a pretty good career as a body shop manager. So he would bring home cars from the dealership, and I get to see a new car every day. It's really cool. He was really good at it. Great at managing people, and he left that job after many, many years. And we went and worked at a church. And we went from having steady income, never really worrying about, what to buy for groceries and all that, to basically my dad working for nothing because churches back then didn't pay really at all. And you really had nothing. You didn't really have a house. You didn't have any kind of equity. You didn't have any kind of nest egg. You were just supposed to kind of lean on the kindness of strangers, which can get a little old when you don't have food in the cupboard and you have no money to pay bills, and you just kind of feel trapped because you have no way to make extra money. So I saw my dad sacrifice and struggle. And there was times where I, as a student in high school, made more money per week than my father did. So I was buying groceries and bringing things home. And it got to the end of my dad's life where he got very sick and was in hospital and care, and he had really nothing except debt. He really just owed a lot of money. He had a rental property he was renting. He didn't own a house. And he basically ended up with nothing. And what happened was, when he passed away, we brought my mother into our home. She helped watch our small children, allowing us to work, so we didn't have to pay for that. And she kind of lived with us. And I don't think she really enjoyed it. She liked her independence, but that was the best we could do at the time. And what ended up happening was I basically inherited all of my dad's debt. I could have easily just washed my hands of it and let my mother deal with it, but I made a promise to my dad that I would take care of my mom. And that's what we did. And so my wife and I took on the entire debt load of my father, and we paid it off over a period of time. And it basically crippled us financially because we were not only paying our own debts, which we were getting a little bit behind on, we then also had to pay for my father's debts. And that didn't feel good. As a dad with 3 small kids, working a lot of hours to pay for my debt and someone else's debt, didn't feel fair, didn't feel right, but I felt obligated to do that. So I did it. And again, it took a long time, and we finally worked our way out of it, got caught up. And I said to my wife, I don't ever want to do that to my kids. Nothing against my father, because he had a heart for serving people, and he would have done anything. He would have done it for free if he could. But that's how he was wired, and I really admire him for that. It just came at the end of his days, there was really nobody there to help him financially. And it was really rough for our family, especially for my mom. So we decided, my wife Jen and I decided that for our 3 kids, when they were little, like young, that we would do something, we would do our best for them to set them up for success. So what we decided to do was through buying property for ourselves, we ended up getting our own home. And we've had this home for a long period of time. We've been in the same home for years and years. And over time, what basically happens for those that haven't done this yet, you buy a house for a certain dollar amount, and then over time, you pay down that dollar amount. But at the same time, your house grows, hopefully, in equity. It becomes worth more than you bought it for. So you're paying it down, you're owing less, and your house is worth more, so it's got more value. So that gap that's in there between what you paid for it, what you owe, and what it's worth, there's a little space there. And that little space is equity. So again, I'm not an expert in this, and it might differ for where you live in the world, because I have people listening around the world. But the idea was, if we could take a piece of the equity, the money that we've earned in our home that belongs to us, we could just leverage that. We could then take that equity and then purchase another property in addition to the property that we have. So that's what we did. We went and found a small 1-bedroom condo unit in a 4-story building. And ours is on the top floor. And it's a beautiful little 1-bedroom apartment. It's got a full kitchen, in-suite laundry, a wood-burning fireplace, right? A patio, and it overlooks a beautiful part of our city. So we bought this unit with the equity from our home. So now we have 2 properties. And those 2 properties, we just keep paying the mortgage. Our tenants that rent that 1-bedroom apartment, they pay for all of the mortgage costs, the condo costs, the taxes, the property tax. It's all baked into their rent. And we do the lowest possible rent we can for our tenants. And we do little things like give them back $100 here and there, or give them birthday or holiday presents or whatever. We try to be as grateful as possible to our tenants so that they stick with us and take care of the property. So we always invest in our tenants. That's one thing we do. And so over time, we now have these 2 properties that are still being paid down and still growing in value. So now we have some equity from the condo unit, the 1-bedroom apartment, where we can now leverage the money that's there and pull that equity out of that specific property and then purchase another one, which we just did in August. And that's why there's been a big gap in the content here on Dad Space, is we actually got a 3-bedroom, 3-level townhouse in a condo complex with multiple units. So we had to renovate 3-bedroom townhouse, 2 bathrooms, kitchen. The basement had to be redone, new electrical, new plumbing, everything. And so we were able to take the equity in the condo, and then that allowed us to purchase and update this new unit. So that's our 3rd property. So we have 3 kids, remember. So we have our current home and now 2 properties, the condo and the 3-bedroom townhouse condo. We're actually ready to purchase one more, which will be technically our 4th property. And you're like, oh my gosh, Dave, how much money do you have? Well, I can tell you that my bank account does not reflect that big of a number, I got to tell you. We're still working our regular jobs. I work a pretty basic, not very high-paying job to maintain having a regular paycheck. And then I podcast, which is my heart and passion, is doing this. So we don't make a lot of money, just so you understand. We're not independently wealthy. And this is not wealth advice or any of that. This is just how we're doing it. But when I explain to people that we don't rent, that we have our own property, and that we have multiple other properties, the weird look I get from people when they look at me like, how do you do that? Like, how much money do you make? And it's not really about how much money that we make. It's about how we're leveraging the property values that we have gained over a long period of time. We didn't buy our first house and then immediately go look for a second. It took us years, 10, 15 years of just paying our mortgage and being faithful in this and paying it down and taking care of our credit rating, we were able to then leverage and move forward with that first purchase. So what I'm trying to encourage you as a listener, as a dad, is when is the last time that you planned out your children's future financially? And are you on a path where your kids, like my dad, are going to have to come in and rescue you financially, or your partner or whatever, and they're going to be stuck paying for your debts? I got to tell you, that's the last thing I would suggest that you do or plan on for your children to save the day and rush in and create the answer to your debts. Whatever you can do now as a dad, whether your kids are infants, young kids getting in their teenage years, the sooner you start, the better. They say all the time, the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago, and the next best time is today. The best time to start investing in your children and planning out their financial future was when they were born, or even before they were born. And the next best time is right now. So when you're done listening to this, I want you to start coming up with a plan. There are so many great podcasts about debt planning and all of that. One of them is The Debt-Free Dad. I love that show. A great podcast to help you get out of debt. They're very practical people. I'll have a link to their podcast here in the notes. Go listen to them. Super. They are on a different level than I am, and they do help people a lot. So what I like to do is I would love to kind of talk about some smart strategies for dads about preparing for your kids so that they can have home ownership in the future through real estate investing. Okay. Now, again, I don't have a book. I don't have a course. I have nothing to offer you. You can't buy this from me because I'm learning just like you are. And I just think that any type of knowledge that I can share with you that could help you, I know that I couldn't find any of this information when I first bought our first place, and we did it all on our own. Okay. So I'm going to jump into this. We're going to talk about some ways that you can help your kids and their future. So one of the first things I would say to you, if you are thinking about buying a property, think about the type of property you want to buy. For us, we wanted to buy something that was simple, super easy to take care of, where we didn't have to worry about all of the things. We live in Canada. Canada has a thing called snow. And in the winter months, snow is terrible. It's a lot of work. It's heavy. It's a lot of you don't want to even deal with it. So having a condo allows us to pay condo fees, and they take care of all the externals. They take care of the roof on the building. They take care of all the major things for the building itself. And they also take care of all the lawn care for us in Canada, snow, a lot of the things. They take care of all that. So as an owner of a property that I'm not living at, the last thing I want to do is drive to that property on a regular basis and cut the grass, shovel the snow, take care of all the external things. I would love to just to pay a condo to take care of that for me. And basically in that unit, as the lawyers were explaining to us, we don't own anything except the air in that building. That's what we bought, a box of air, because the place belongs to the condo. It's their unit, it's their building, and we can't change the color of the building or any of that. The windows belong to the condo. Everything belongs to the condo. We own the air within the unit. But that's the nice thing, is I don't have to worry about all these big things. And we just fall into the condo rules. Our tenants understand the rules, and it works well. So the biggest thing I would say to you is buy a condo instead of buying a house with a yard and a driveway and all of that. There's more work for you. Buying a condo allows someone else to do all the work. You're going to pay for it, but usually you can blend it into your tenant's rent, and it's not a significantly high thing for them to pay for. They'll take care of it for you. So the first thing I would say to you as you plan out your kids' future is to start early. Begin by focusing on your children's financial health as soon as possible. And if your kids are interested in learning money tricks and money education, I would also tell you to check out Cash Kids, another podcast. It's designed by a kid for kids on how they can take care of their money better. Another podcast for you to check out in the show notes. Cash Kids is amazing. Your kids will love it because it's done by a kid, not an adult. So check that out, Cash Kids, in the show notes. Begin focusing on your kids' financial health as soon as possible. Ideally, from the time they're born, you need to have a plan for your kids. And the power of compound growth, which what I talked about at the beginning, is what will take even the smallest investment and that made early on in life and make it significant over time. So why do we invest in rental properties? Why are we taking this path as for our family? There's benefits for our kids' future. For our kids, whether or not they live in these units that we're buying or they become landlords, there's potential for them to have passive income for a generation, right? We're not just having a single house that's going to be willed to our children or however we're going to do that in the future. We have multiple properties that we're be able to give to our kids as they can be landlords or they can live there. And for the most part, depending on how long we're here, many of these properties will be paid for by the time we give them over to our kids. So the potential property value appreciation happens over a period of time. And what we're trying to do is teach our kids about the real estate market and how to do financing, how to have a better credit rating. All of these things come into play as our kids see us move forward and buy multiple properties. To us, it feels normal because we're in it. But to those outside of our circle who don't understand what the heck we're doing, they get these really amazing questions and look at us like we're some kind of rock star. We just feel like we're just doing our thing. So if it's you, you can do this, but it's going to take time. And so the sooner you start, the better. So start early. So some strategies that we've been putting into place as far as rental purchases and buying multiple properties is to buy properties in up and coming areas. So here's a little trick for you. If you want to know, now this goes back to my corporate retail background. I work for a grocery store chain in Canada. I work for a large company that doesn't sell walls, despite their name. Like you can't buy a wall there, if you know what I mean. And one thing I've learned by sitting in meetings with people who plan out retail space is they are usually 5 to 10 years ahead of what's happening in the neighborhood. So if you see a large wall store, but they don't sell walls, do you know what I'm saying? That's the kind of store. Or a large grocery store chain, fast food. For us, we have Tim Hortons here. It's a coffee shop. If you see a new store going up in the middle of nowhere, that's a good indication that something's coming. They are usually 5 to 10 years out. So they've already done their research. They know what's happening. So that's a good key indicator if you're in the right spot or not. So buy properties in the up and coming areas and look for locations with growth potential. So when we walked into this 3-bedroom townhouse that we just bought in August, this place needed a lot of work. And what happened was everybody else that went in there went, oh my gosh, there's too many spider webs and it needs to be painted. And I don't like the carpet and blah, 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 blah. It stinks in here. And people would leave. And when I went in with my oldest son and my wife and we walked the place, he's looking at this place going, this is a dump. And I'm like, exactly. That's exactly what I want you to say. Because everyone else is saying that. And this person that's trying to sell this house, that's all they're hearing, is this place is a dump. So that immediately brings down the value of that place to a more reasonable place. So we were able to save thousands of dollars by coming in on a lower offer on this place because no one else wanted to do the work. I like doing the work because I'm paying myself. And now my house is worth more than I bought it for. And I've only had it for 4 weeks. Do you see what I'm saying? So going in there and understanding that you can create the value just in the purchase price. That's the one thing that we really wanted to focus in on. So we're teaching our kids all these lessons as we walk them through the process and as they see their parents demonstrating to them that they can do this. I want them to do this for their own families and copy what we're doing. So we're trying to set an example to our kids and how we do our home purchase. Consider buying multi-unit properties. So if you can rent out one floor and then there's another floor, and you have two different rental opportunities. You cannot just make money. You or like cover your costs. You can make more money than what the house is worth by doing that. And I guess one strategy I would really want to focus on for you is to involve your kids in the process. As they grow, teach them about taking care of your property, taking care of their house, taking care of their room, not smashing the walls up. Like, help them understand the costs involved when they do these things. When we bought our 3-bedroom townhouse, my oldest son would take things down because he works for a home builder, and they just strip things to the bare walls and they down to the studs and they start over. I'm like, listen, everything you see in this place is part of the purchase price. So that ugly fridge that you think is disgusting, that's part of what we paid for. So we need to have a plan so we don't have to spend as much money as possible. If we don't need to replace the floor, then don't replace the floor. Leave it. Let's clean it up. Let's make it look great. And let's save some money. And we can't just spend all the money we have. So I'm trying to teach them all these things at the same time. Helping your kids getting into home ownership, how do you even do this? So here's a few points for you to think about. First, start a housing fund. For your kids, encourage them, and you could do this as a parent on behalf of your kids, but set up a dedicated savings account or some kind of investment portfolio for each of your kids. For us here in Canada, we can put money away towards their education, and our government here will match a certain portion of that as long as they use the money for school. So you can start that when your kids are in diapers. You can start that right away. You don't have to wait until they're in high school. Start now and let the period of time help that money grow, especially if there's a way to have somebody add to it, whether it's the government, your business, your place where you work. Maybe somebody will add to it and help you along and double it. So start a housing fund, start an education fund. Those are all things you can do right away. And consider using registered education savings plans, however that's termed where you live. That can be also used, maybe leverage for other things in the future. So start a housing fund. Start a fund where you're setting aside a certain amount of money and work on that from day one. The next thing is to teach financial literacy. One of the biggest things you'll hear as a comment on the education system is, okay, we can teach you how to do algebra, but there's no way to balance your bank account or understand what a credit card does to your credit rating. There's none of that. There's no financial knowledge and expertise coming into your school system. That's why Cash Kid started his show, to help kids, because nobody talks about this. It's a section one day in a classroom, and that's it. Right? Everything you could really learn in school can basically be Googled today. So do you need to know all the capital cities of Canada and the US and Mexico? Do you need to know the city names? No, not really. But you do need to know how to save money, pay your bills, and keep a good credit rating. That's what you need to know, and that's what we need to help our kids understand. So leverage the resources, other podcasts, books, speakers, courses. There's a lot of great expertise and knowledge out there, way more than I have, that you could leverage to teach your kids how to be more financially literate. You can demonstrate this with your kids just simply by involving them in budgeting and savings discussions in the home as they grow up. Help them understand the value of money. Help them understand the transaction that happens with money, how to value money, how to get money, how much things cost. Help them understand as you do the groceries this week and they're in the buggy, you're pushing them through the buggy. Show them the fact that a super large size of cereal might be cheaper than the cereal that's on sale by looking at how much it is per weight. There might be a way for them to learn how to shop better and be more discerning as they shop as a consumer. Start teaching them that now. And encourage them to save a portion of any money that comes into them so that they can either earn their way towards a bigger purchase or save it for something in the future. Show them how to save a portion of their money. Get them in the habit of doing so. The next thing you can do for helping your kids to get into home ownership is to co-sign or gift property to your kids. When your kids are ready to buy, consider co-signing with them on their mortgage or gifting a down payment to them. Anything you do, you just be careful that you're not adding debt to what your kids are doing. So having them agree to pay you back, that's a debt. And a debt is going to hurt their buying opportunities, so don't do that. But figure out a way that you can maybe help them through co-signing if that's one way you want to go. But be aware always, again, I'm not an expert. I've never done taxes like this. I'm not a tax lawyer or an accountant. But be aware of any tax implications that could impact you and your family. And always seek professional advice, right? It's one thing to listen to a podcast. It's another thing to talk to somebody who does this every day, is aware of all the up-to-date laws in your area where you live, and they can help you in better ways than anybody else can here on a podcast or social media. It's great, but it might not relate to you and your situation. So always speak to a professional. The other thing you could do is help your kids around long-term planning and strategies. The best things in life happen because of a plan. And I know we can overplan and not be spontaneous, but I think when we're talking financial stability for our kids, the longer the plan, the better. Because it has legs, it has a runway that allows it to gain speed and traction and better results over time. So set some clear goals. Determine how much you want to contribute to each child's future home, and do that now. And create a timeline for achieving these goals. And wherever you can, diversify your investments. What does that mean? Just don't put all your eggs into one basket. Don't do just one thing and put everything behind that, because there's a chance that things might not go well with that one thing. So having different ways to save and generate equity will help you in the long term. Real estate is valuable, but also consider other investment vehicles for building your wealth over time with your kids. And again, speak to a professional, because they know more than I would ever know. So talk to them. You can look at stocks and bonds and all that other stuff. Try to have a well-rounded portfolio. That's the main thing. So keep that in mind as you plan out your kids' future for their finances. So the big thing I would leave you with as a dad, your financial habits will significantly influence your children. How you live your life. Are you a spender? Are you buying video games and Lego too much? Are you spending too much money on takeout food and home delivery? Are you buying too many tools? Do you have too many toys? As a dad, you're setting the stage for your kids. They're going to emulate you. They're going to copy you. Even if it's not front of mind for them, they're still going to copy you. So whatever you can do to demonstrate good financial habits in front of your kids, model it for them and let them see. And if you make a mistake with money, don't hide it. Don't bury that mistake. Show your kids teachable moments. Let them see how you got out of that, how you fixed it, so that they can track your progress and they can avoid some of the things that you might not want to talk about out of embarrassment or fear. Your kids need to learn from you. So be open. Tell them, your dad messed up this week. I overpaid for that thing, and I bought it because I felt like I wanted it and I don't really want it, and I wasted my money. And how did you fix it? So be a great demonstration to your kids about how to manage your money. Discuss investment decisions with your kids. Bring them in on it, even when they're young. Let them have a say, and involve them in age-appropriate financial planning activities. Do something with them to help them understand money. Just remember that while preparing for your kids' financial future is crucial, it's equally important to balance this with enjoying the present. Don't sacrifice your own financial health for the future. By taking a thoughtful, long-term approach to real estate, financial planning, whatever you're going to pursue for your kids, you can set your children up for a stable and prosperous future. So to the people that look at me and go, Dave, how is it possible that you have so many properties and you don't make six figures? Well, it's because I let equity help me. I let my purchases speak for themselves, and I buy well. I'm a disciplined person. I plan, and I have a vision that went all the way back to when my kids were little, that when I'm long gone, I want my kids to not just benefit in the moment, but benefit for the long term. What they do with these investments, I won't be here to direct them. I can give them advice now, but they're on their own. They're going to make their own decisions with whatever we give them. And frankly, I won't care at that point because I won't be here. But I want to do my best for my kids. I do not want to leave them with a bucket full of debt. I don't want to leave them with hardships and make them suffer and toil under my debt. I want to give them the best that I can while I'm here. And that's why we've decided to go with 3 different properties for our 3 kids and set them up the best possible way we can. Because nobody did it for us. Nobody was there giving us property. Nobody was there giving us a shot. And in our world today, I think that our youth are going to struggle really hard for home ownership, having some equity. It's going to be a big ask. So if I could break the rental trap that my kids are in by giving them something where they can own and become a landlord and treat people well who are renting, because I think that's a key thing. I think we need more landlords who have property, make investments that benefit people who need housing. We don't need to have people who jack up prices over what's realistic, charge people crazy things, rent evictions, all of these things that happen with landlords. If we could be a light as a landlord helping people, I think that's what we need more of. So what are your financial plans for your kids? What are you thinking? Do you have a plan? Even when your children are small, they're still running around in diapers. What's the plan? What are you working towards? It's not too late to start. Start now. Build your equity. Build your investments through real estate, whatever you're going to do. But start. Please start. And have great conversations with your partner, your children, and come up with a plan that's going to work for you and your family. So that's where I've been for the last month and a half, is flipping a house. And I'm so glad to be back podcasting and back with you here on Dad Space. Great episodes coming up here in the future. Lots of great guests coming on. More stuff to help you as a dad to be a better dad. And I'd love to hear from you. dadspace.ca is a website. Come join the conversation. Thanks for being part of the podcast. And great to be back with you again. Thanks for listening, and keep doing all the great dad stuff that you do every day. Take care. Hey, thanks for listening to Dad Space. Thanks for hanging out to the end of the podcast. That's a great sign to wherever you're listening to this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, fill in the blank, that this was a good podcast to send people to. So simply by listening to this point of the podcast, you're helping the show grow. So good on you. Thanks for helping us grow Dad Space. If you want to help us fill our cups over at Dad Space, head over to dadspace.ca. Dadspace.ca, simple website, right? Dadspace.ca. You can fill up our coffee cup, which helps us then to keep moving forward with the podcast, and use our Buy Me a Coffee link over at dadspace.ca. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for coming back. And thank you for sharing, because the more dads we can help, the better. We're all here to help each other grow in community. That's what it's all about. And without you, the podcast is pointless. There's no reason to do any of this. So you being here means everything. See you at dadspace.ca. Take care.